Well, hi, this is Just Be Well, the channel about whole life wellness. I'm Sult, a medical doctor and functional medicine practitioner.
I'm Elizabeth, a registered nurse and whole life coach.
And we are talking this week about pain, chronic pain. And we mentioned briefly on Monday, as we started sort of an overview of the whole life treatment of chronic pain, we mentioned Jon Kabat-Zinn and how his mindfulness-based program actually has better statistics than interventional pain programs that kill nerves and burn nerves and inject, anti-inflammatories and whatever.
Aggressive programs.
Programs. So we wanted to dive deeper into that. And just so you know, we're out here at Sibley State Park in central Minnesota, and the light's filtering through, the sun's filtering through the trees, and the breeze is beautiful. And we are just continuing our days of forest bathing. And we should do one whole podcast on, or whatever they call these things, on forest bathing. But anyway, as always, we're here to entertain your questions as well.
Most importantly, to entertain your questions.
Yep. So the two people that come to mind when I think about becoming more and more mindful in my life are really Stephen Covey, oddly enough, who is kind of a business guru. Hi, Denise. And
Hi, Denise.
then Jon Kabat.
I was looking over there, sorry.
What were you looking? Oh, you thought somebody was over there. And Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's written he's written several books, but the one that really speaks to me is called, one of them is called Wherever You Go, There You Are. But the one that I really love is called Full Catastrophe Living, Embracing the Full Catastrophe of Your Life. So chronic pain, and we'll talk about both of those authors. And the book from Stephen Covey that I think is the most useful, because most of his books are about business. But Stephen Covey has a book called First Things First. And maybe we should start with that a little bit. What do you think? Where do you want to start?
With that.
Okay. So I'll just begin because to boil it down, it's a big book, but to boil it down, there's this concept of important or urgent, and we're all urgency addicts. So if you create a
kind of a Venn diagram.
Yeah, well, not a Venn, but a 2x2 diagram, and it's important, not important, and then on the side is urgent, not urgent. So urgent and important, that's like breathing, right? That's really serious. But important, not urgent, that's where we get lost. That's like, self-care and taking a vacation and taking good care of yourself and spending time to cook good meals and things like that. Most of us are urgency addicts, and we get lost in not important but urgent. Oh, my phone's ringing. Emails. Oh my God, it's stinging. I got to get it right now. Well, it just doesn't matter if your phone's dinging. So, reevaluate. Don't let urgency steal your time. So, I don't know. What do you think about urgent versus important?
Well, I think it's obviously the urgent things that do steal our time. It's those things that we feel like we have to do right now, when in all reality, if we look at them, if somebody's sending you a text message, 10 years ago, maybe it's even more than that, texting didn't exist. And so that kind of shows you along the lines of, how we've evolved into being, we are kind of, things right now type of society. If I see something I wanted, or
we are Pavlov's dogs.
And if, I get a message, I answer it, when in all reality, if you're present with somebody, if you're in a conversation with somebody, or if you're in a conversation with me and your phone dings, and I'm sure we've all been there on both sides, and somebody reaches for the phone and stops in mid-conversation and answers it, there's so much that's lost in that moment.
What's his name? Sinek.
Oh, Simon?
Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek does this little routine where he talks about, you're in a conversation and the phone starts vibrating on the thing, and the person's like, oh my God, I gotta get, I'm not going to answer that right now. It's like, oh, well, how magnanimous of you. I'm here in person, and
Right.
somebody you don't even know who's probably a telemarketer, you're not going to answer your phone. You know, but that's how drawn to it we are. It's buzzing. I have to get it. It's probably a telemarketer.
Yeah. In all reality, I mean, they'll leave a message.
So, and if they don't leave a message, it's probably not very important. So, yeah, this urgency that we're pulled to. Oh my God, the post office is going to close. So, you know, or whatever it might be. There are very few things in life that are both urgent and important. Breathing is one of them. And, you know, if it doesn't compare to breathing, it's probably not both urgent and important. It's either urgent or important. And if it's urgent, but not important, that's where you're wasting your time. And that's where all of the clutter and craziness of your day, and that's why you start with a neck and you end without a neck, because you're getting so uptight because of all of the urgent stuff. So to me, that sets the stage of, you know, kind of a reset of how you even evaluate things in your life, so that you can start to think about something like embracing full catastrophe living. So tell us a little bit about John Kabat-Zinn and full catastrophe living in his program, since you were just reading about him. He knows a lot more about it. She knows a lot more about it than I do.
I know a lot more about his, you know, his life. I always like to, Ironton, Minnesota.
Yeah, hi.
I always like to kind of research what led people to where they are today. So I look into more like their past and their life and how they got to where they are. And I find that to be fascinating. But him, he developed a mindfulness-based stress reduction program. That's what he started off as. He kind of developed the bridge between, you know, some Eastern to Western practices, and really introduced this into us in a way that certain people could hear it. So he is really big, and he has had great success specifically with chronic pain and pain management based off of these mindfulness practices, which are also great, you know, for stress reduction. So I think, you know,
They're great for almost anything.
Yeah, they are. They're great for living a life of intention as well, and just being present. So, yeah, very powerful.
So his program, so he gets the worst of the worst, right? He gets the last, because, you look, I have pain. What do you mean I'm supposed to just be mindful? What kind of nonsense is that? No, I'm going to the guy who's going to kill my nerve or burn my nerve or inject my nerve or do surgery or do something, right? So they go there and they do that and they fail. They're still in pain. Or they've had all the stents they're ever going to get in their heart and they're still having heart pain. Or, you know, they have 60% of their body was third-degree burns, and now they have all this scarring and they have all this pain. So those are the people that end up in his program, the people who have failed all the other programs. And yet, with that cohort, with that group of people who are among the most recalcitrant to treatment, the most difficult cases, his statistics are actually better than interventional pain programs. So this is not trivial. This is serious, serious medicine. And it requires 45 minutes of your time once a day. Imagine if you were suffering desperately with pain all day, every day, and you could make it go away with just 45 minutes of your time every day. And it's not 45 minutes at the gym where you're pushing and pulling and, you know, working. It's sitting quietly with yourself for 45 minutes a day. It's ridiculous, but it's true. It works incredibly well. And you can kind of prove it to yourself. You can just think about your finger and just pretend like your finger hurts, and then focus on, oh my God, my finger hurts. Your finger will start to hurt.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of like when you find out somebody has a stomach bug who you've been sitting next to all day. all of a sudden your gut feels upset. Or your kid, has somebody in the classroom with lice, then your head starts to itch. I mean,
Right. And
it's profound what the mind
right, and
has influence over.
the opposite of those things are true as well. There is a chiropractor, and I'm terrible, I can't remember his name right now. He wrote a book, You Are the Placebo. He was in a terrible accident. He was a super fit guy. He was in a triathlon, and he got hit by a car. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Christina.
And when he got hit by this car, he was told that, like he wouldn't walk again unless he had all these surgeries. He'd be in chronic pain, all these terrible things. And he said, okay, well, thanks all of you people, but I don't think that the risks of the surgery are worth it. I'm going to leave. And he left the hospital after he was medically stable. He didn't leave while he was still bleeding to death or anything, but after he was medically stable, but still needing a lot of surgeries, he just left. And through mindfulness, through meditation, through prayer, through all these techniques of calming and centering, he healed himself, or he was healed, however you want to think about it. Hi, Allison.
Hi, Allison.
So speaking of recent accidents, how are you? Our tripod is set up right across the trail at Sibley, so that's why we keep looking around to see if somebody's coming.
It's just the wind.
It's just the wind. So anyway, this is powerful, powerful stuff. And people say, well, first of all, I can't meditate. Well, you can, but if you think you can't, what does that say about the state of your mind? People take great pride in saying, well, I can't be hypnotized. Well, it's a choice. You can be hypnotized if you choose.
And you're not going to succeed on your first time. Nobody sits for 45 minutes unless you're a trained master,
right.
Without thinking of anything. Mindfulness and meditation are just simply being aware. So it's sitting there and being aware of your thoughts and not judgmenting and not judging your thoughts. And it's amazing when you just bring awareness to that.
Good, Allison.
Yeah.
So that's exactly right. And so you start with 5 minutes. But people think that, meditation means you shouldn't think of anything. Well, that's impossible. You're going to think of things. So instead of going,
listening.
oh, you lousy sack of dung, you thought of something. Instead, think, oh, I was thinking of something. Well, that's nice. I noticed. Now I'm going to focus back on either whatever you chose. So, there's a million kinds of mantras. Some people have mantras that are actually like, the Lord's Prayer, or a mantra might be counting, or a mantra might be a certain phrase that you love. Maybe it's a Sermon on the Mount, or maybe it's something else, or it can just be aware of a sense. So maybe you're concentrating on sounds in your ears, or maybe you're concentrating on what's right in front of you. You don't have to have your eyes closed. Some people say, I feel so claustrophobic with my eyes. Well, open them. Focus on what's right in front of you. Focus on the leaves moving. Don't judge that the leaves are moving. Just be aware that the leaves are moving. Or be aware of the sensation of the wind on your skin. Just be aware and bring all of your awareness to that one thing. And then when your mind wanders and you start thinking about, balancing your checkbook, become aware that you were drifting and thinking about your checkbook and bring yourself back.
Without judgment.
Without judgment, and that's the hard part, isn't it?
It's just listening without judgment.
Thoreau there's a really passage in one of his books about suspending judgment. I suspend judgment, he would say. When he would become very judgmental of what was happening in society, I suspend judgment, and then just try to write about it from a neutral point of view. So if you're just sitting and not judging, how on earth can that have any effect at all?
It feels wonderful.
But it's got to be a waste of time. I mean, really, doing nothing?
Try it.
Try it,
Try
exactly.
it. Just try it.
In Zen, which is an ancient religion, started really with Buddhism. It's a branch of Buddhism. They say you must have great curiosity, great doubt, great persistence, and great passion. And the idea of this journey is to lengthen that pause between stimulus and response, and to understand that the stimulus is information that we can process and use to decide on the response. So if you get hurt, it's painful. Ouch. Well, that's the physiological response to pain, is ouch. Anger is what we often go to, that stupid thing, and throw it across the room. Well, that didn't help, right? Anger really means you care. So if I'm angry at you, if my initial response is I'm angry, it means that I really cared about something that happened here. And maybe if I exercised better control between that stimulus and response, there's a better response than anger about my care, right? So it's training. There's a wonderful example in a book I read recently, and if you can't meditate and not scratch your cheek, what hope is there for controlling yourself when you're really inflamed about anger? And so meditation, you should bring the kind of focus. If your loved one was hanging over a cliff and you were hanging on to him and you were the only thing between them and certain death, that's the focus. Would you scratch your cheek then? Wait a second, let me let go of you for a second. I got to scratch my cheek. No, you would be focused. So when you're meditating, part of the meditation is the sensory input. So let's say I'm open-eyed meditating, and I'm right in front of me. There happen to be leaves and they're wiggling, and I'm seeing that, and I'm just appreciating the natural beauty of it. But now my cheek itches. Well, the idea is that all of these phenomena, anger, jealousy, all of it, it's all impermanent. Our own lives are impermanent, right? The itch on your cheek is impermanent also. So simply allow it to itch and don't scratch it. Just allow it to itch. Now, if it's a tsetse fly giving you sleeping sickness, get rid of it, right? If there's some medical reason to do something about it, do it. But in general, it's part of the meditation is to simply allow that impermanent feeling to pass. And then to learn to control that moment between stimulus and response, and instead of going, oh, you made me mad, instead saying, I'm really impacted by what you said, and this is what I'm feeling. Imagine how much better Denise, I know, I saw you. I'm glad, thank you. And thank you for everybody as well. So that's sort of the idea of the mindfulness approach. And it turns out that people with depression, people with anxiety, people with social phobia, people with social anxiety disorder, people with chronic pain do better just from mindfulness. What on earth is that sound? That's a bug or something?
It sounds like the bird.
Bird, maybe. We have a very strange bird out here. Yeah, it's definitely a bird. What do you have on here? So, that's the beginning. It's a practice, and as when I started meditating, I used to wear a watch, and I'd meditate kind of like this, with my eyes closed, and I'd open one eye and peek at my watch, So if you're worried that you're going to take too much time, set an alarm. But be fully present. Do whatever you need to do to be fully present. See, I'm itching. Do whatever you need to do to be fully present with your meditation. And meditation takes many forms. What do you like to do for meditation?
It depends on the day. For me, some days I'm able to just sit there with my eyes closed for an hour. And some days my meditation is perhaps just getting outdoors and going for a walk, or maybe it's sitting where I'm at my desk and doing some breathing just to bring my awareness to my breath and controlling that in the moment, because you know, sometimes there's a lot of things we can't control, but at least we can control our breath. And you know, there's nothing like focusing on your breath that brings you into the present moment. And it, you know, when you slow it down and control it, it automatically switches you out of that fight or flight into that parasympathetic rest.
Your breath is really the only place where your subconscious autonomic nervous system becomes conscious, right? Most people can't just say, oh, I think I'll slow down my heart rate. They can't say, oh, I think I'll just change my peristaltic speed. But you can manipulate your breath very easily, right? Everybody can. Oh, actually, it's not true. Little kids have a really hard time with it. I mean, as a doctor, I'm trying to listen to a little kid's lungs, and you say, take a deep breath, and they go, they don't do it. You know, they don't know what it is. So, and exhaling is parasympathetic, and that pause at the end of exhale. So what I like to do for my breath, everybody's different. Some people like to go even in and even out, but I like to inhale, and then, you know, so like maybe a count of 5 inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in, and then I like to go, and then hold it out for a count of 5, and then breathe in. Some people like to do a triangle where it's 5 in, 5 out, 5, you know, all the way out. So there's lots of different ways to breathe, and
circular.
Or circular breathing, where there's no pause at all.
It's in and out, in and out.
Many ways to breathe, and they're all good, because it's really, becomes your mantra, and it focuses you on whatever it is you've decided to do. But it is that connection with the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, and taking some control over that really helps. So breathing. And I'll tell you that sometimes when I'm really agitated, you know, sitting down, you know, you want me to sit down? How about I punch you in the face, right? Some days we get that way. And, you know, exercise is a really good meditation at that point.
Some sort of movement.
Some sort of movement, yeah. And hopefully joyous movement. And instead of going like I used to do, like Rocky, you know, I'd be, instead of doing that, try to simply get moving, and then focus on the fluidity of the movement. And that can be extremely meditative. So that can be very helpful too. So breathing, what else do you like to do? Go ahead.
No, what were you going to ask?
I was just saying, you just mentioned breathing, and
breathing. There is definitely something over there that keeps moving.
I don't think it's a mountain lion or anything.
No, but it's larger.
It's a squirrel.
Yep, anywhere from, like I said, just sitting with my eyes closed and observing my thoughts. Sorry. Sometimes it's prayer. Sometimes it's the movement where I'm outdoors, and then last it's the breathing. So it just all depends on my mood and what I know that I'm going to perhaps succeed with in that day. If I'm having a day where I'm redlining and I'm really upset, I'm probably going to pick something that's a little bit more with a movement involved, just because it's continuing to move kind of those emotions out of me, as compared to a day where I really feel like I want to meditate, to maybe listen to some answers. Maybe I have a lot of questions, or there's something that I'm very uncertain about. Sometimes I'll just sit and you know, really listen to what life is telling me.
Really important, meditating on a question. Yeah, that's another. It doesn't have to be emptying your mind, right?
No.
It can be processing a question and trying to look at it from all the angles, you know, trying to really understand the question and all the permutations of the answers, because sometimes the obvious answer isn't the only answer.
Yeah, and in that moment, or in those moments, it's all about listening. So we're actually taking time, you know, from our thinking, our calculating, our prayers, to sit down and actually listen for a moment.
Yeah.
So.
We all know somebody who asks you 25 questions before pausing long enough to let you answer the first one. And, you know, that's what we do to ourselves all day long, as I love to misquote Brene Brown, but we have many conversations throughout a day, and a few of them involve other people. most of the conversation we have are with ourselves, and are we really stopping and listening to the answer? And that's
or are we
really
just
important.
rambling on?
And Mandy, hi.
Hi, Mandy.
So yeah, we've got Ironwood, Minnesota, and Michigan, and New London. We got all kinds of people from everywhere here. I think we've got some California's there and all kinds of places. So, all right. Well, anything important we missed about this mental, emotional, spiritual, psychosocial, spiritual aspect of pain management? Again, the 2 books that I think are super powerful. First Things First by Stephen Covey and 2 other authors whose names escape me. And then John Kabat-Zinn's book entitled Full Catastrophe Living. Beautiful books, both of them. And old. They're not brand new books. They've been around for a million years. Probably find them used for almost nothing. And you can certainly find them electronic, I think, too. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to let you go on this beautiful day, and we're going to continue our hike out here at Sibley. And we'll stare at you like the televangelist waiting for your donation until you ask a question. All right. Well, we will see you. We're going to rethink the schedule because nobody really shows up on Friday evenings, or very few people show up on Friday evenings. So put a comment in if you have an opinion about maybe Thursday is a better night, or maybe 2 nights a week is plenty. Maybe it's more than you want.
Thursdays, or
Tuesday and Thursdays, and then we'll maybe do something else once a week too. We'll see. But let us know what you think about Friday, because it's not well attended. We will see you Friday this week anyway. So until then, good night.
Bye.